The waters of Loch Ness have always been deep, mysterious, and vast, covering a length of 23 miles and a depth of nearly 800 feet at its deepest point. The rolling hills surrounding the lake, veiled in a thin shroud of mist, added an ethereal quality to the landscape. Centuries had passed since the first settlement was established at its shore. Yet, regardless of time's ceaseless march, the waters never ceased their quiet murmur. Every splash and ripple hinted at stories that lay hidden, tales of ancient warriors, forgotten castles, and the eternal whisper of the wind. But of all the secrets the loch held, one stood out, a tale that crossed generations, a legend that had captured the imagination of millions. The story of Nessie, the Loch Ness monster. Deep in the heart of the loch, where sunlight struggled to penetrate, an enormous creature stirred. Nessie, a creature of unimaginable size and length, with scales that shimmered in hues of green and blue, moved with grace, her every movement in harmony with the pulse of the loch. Her long, slender neck undulated in smooth arcs as she made her way towards the surface, guided by a song that only she could hear. It had been a long time since Nessie had risen to the surface. There were epochs when she would swim up to watch the stars, or simply to feel the gentle caress of the rain. But as time wore on, and as tales of her existence spread, she became cautious. Humans, with their boats and cameras, had become a common sight, and she often felt their probing eyes upon her. Yet, the song she heard now was too enchanting to ignore. The moon was high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the tranquil waters. The usual hum of nocturnal creatures echoed through the serene night. But as Nessie's head broke the surface, all fell silent. Her large, luminescent eyes took in the sight of the world above, a world that seemed so foreign yet so familiar. The wind carried whispers to her, tales of those who sought to prove her existence, of grand expeditions and sophisticated sonar equipment. Yet, she remained elusive, a phantom of the depths. Every time a camera clicked or a sonar pinged, she vanished into the abyss, leaving behind only ripples and an undying myth. As she floated, basking in the moonlight, she thought of all the times she had seen the world above. From her unique vantage point, she had watched as centuries unfolded. She had seen clans wage wars, castles rise and fall, and the world of man evolve. Their wooden boats had given way to mighty steamships, and their simple huts had transformed into sprawling cities. Yet, through all these changes, the loch remained her constant, her sanctuary. A gentle splash to her right broke her reverie. Turning, she saw a group of playful otters swimming by, their sleek bodies gliding effortlessly through the water. They seemed undisturbed by her presence, acknowledging her with a nod before continuing on their nocturnal hunt. As the night deepened, Nessie felt the pull of the depths beckoning her once more. She took one last look at the shimmering moonlit world above, feeling a profound connection to the mysteries it held. Then, with a graceful arch of her neck, she began her descent. The waters embraced her, growing darker and colder as she ventured deeper. The weight of countless secrets pressed upon her, stories that the loch had shared with her alone. But she wasn't just a keeper of tales, she was a part of them, intertwined with the fabric of the loch's history. As dawn approached, the waters of Loch Ness resumed their calm demeanor, with only a gentle ripple hinting at the wonders that lay beneath. Another night had passed, and the legend of Nessie lived on, whispered among the waves and echoed in the hearts of those who believed. In the deep reaches of Loch Ness, where no human vessel had ever ventured, there lay hidden caves and crevices. Among them, one stood out. The entrance was marked by ancient runes, symbols that had been etched into the rock eons ago. Inside, the cavern expanded into a vast chamber, its walls glistening with mineral deposits that painted intricate patterns. This was Nessie's refuge, a sanctuary untouched by time. The cavern held memories, remnants of a bygone era. Fossilized imprints adorned the walls, remnants of creatures that once roamed the earth. Here, in this submerged museum, Nessie often found herself reminiscing about the past. Many eons ago, when the world was still young, Loch Ness was a different place. It wasn't the quiet, serene lake it is today but a bustling waterway. The waters teemed with life. Massive sea creatures, some even larger than Nessie, ruled the depths. It was during this time that Nessie's ancestors, the ancient Leviathans, reigned supreme. But as the millennia rolled by, the world began to change. The great ice sheets advanced, reshaping the land. Many of the giant creatures perished, unable to adapt to the changing climate. However, Nessie's ancestors, with their unparalleled adaptability, found refuge in the deep waters of what would become Loch Ness. As the ice retreated, the loch transformed into a freshwater lake. The ancient sea routes were cut off, trapping Nessie's lineage within its confines. Yet, they thrived. Over countless generations, they became one with the loch, their essence interwoven with its very soul. Nessie often pondered her lineage. She was the last of her kind, a guardian of memories that spanned ages. Each time she touched the walls of her cavern, she felt a rush of memories, the distant roars of her forebears, the gentle songs of ancient whales, and the fierce battles of primordial beasts. One evening, as Nessie lay resting in her chamber, a soft melody drifted through the waters. It was a tune she recognized, one from her earliest memories. Drawn to it, she ventured out of her sanctuary and followed the sound. It led her to a part of the loch she had not visited in ages. There, bathed in the dim light filtering through the water, was an old monolith. Carved into its surface were depictions of creatures, unmistakably her ancestors. Surrounding the stone, a school of silverfish swam in a harmonious pattern, their movement generating the haunting tune. Mesmerized, Nessie approached the monolith. As she touched it, visions flooded her senses. She saw a time when her kind and humans coexisted. The humans, respecting the creatures of the deep, would sing songs in their honor, and in return, the leviathans would guide them through treacherous waters. The vision faded, leaving Nessie with a profound sense of connection. She realized that her bond with the loch wasn't just about the waters or the landscapes but also about the people who lived by its shores. Their stories and her own were intertwined, echoing through time. Feeling rejuvenated, Nessie decided it was time to reconnect with the world above. She began her ascent, eager to witness the ever-changing dance of life on the surface. She hoped to once again find harmony with the humans, to be a part of their stories as they were of hers. As the first rays of dawn kissed the surface, a silhouette emerged. Nessie, the timeless guardian of Loch Ness, was ready to weave a new chapter in the age-old tale. The sun cast a golden hue over Loch Ness, the morning light reflecting off its placid surface. Birds soared above, their songs blending harmoniously with the gentle lapping of waves. But today was different. An unusual excitement buzzed in the air. Word had spread about a mysterious phenomenon. The ancient monolith, usually submerged and unseen, had revealed itself near the loch's edge. Crowds had gathered, with people from nearby villages and towns drawn to the spectacle. Cameras flashed, and whispers filled the air as they pondered the origin and meaning of the monolith. Among the crowd was a young woman named Elara. A historian by profession and a native of the region, she had grown up on tales of the Loch Ness monster. Her grandmother often spoke of an era when the village had shared a special bond with the creature of the deep. They had coexisted in harmony, their lives intertwined by an unseen thread. Elara approached the monolith. Touching its surface, she felt an inexplicable connection. The carvings resonated with the stories she had heard as a child. She closed her eyes and began humming a tune passed down through generations, a song her grandmother had taught her. As the melody flowed, the waters of the loch began to ripple. From the depths emerged a graceful, serpentine form. Nessie, drawn by the familiar tune, approached the shore. The crowd fell silent, their breaths held in anticipation. Nessie and Elara locked eyes. It was a gaze that transcended time, bridging the chasm between myth and reality. The air seemed to thicken, and a hush fell over the onlookers. The legend they had heard of, the tales they had dismissed, stood before them in all its majesty. Elara took a step forward, her song growing louder, more resonant. As if in response, Nessie raised her long neck, letting out a soft, melodic cry. It was a sound that echoed the very soul of the loch, a testament to the ages they had witnessed together. The two, human and creature, moved closer, their energies merging in a dance as old as time. The wind picked up, carrying with it whispers of bygone eras, of shared histories and mutual respect. As the sun climbed higher, the moments stretched on, suspended in time. But eventually, Nessie, with a graceful nod to Elara, began her retreat into the depths, her form slowly merging with the shadows of the loch. The crowd, still in a state of awe, began to disperse, their perceptions forever altered. They had witnessed the melding of two worlds, the tangible proof of legends whispered through time. Elara, deeply moved, realized her purpose had been fulfilled. She had bridged the gap between the past and present, reigniting the bond between humankind and the guardian of the loch. The stories her grandmother had shared weren't just tales, they were echoes of a deeper truth. Days turned into weeks, and life resumed its usual pace. But Loch Ness was no longer just a body of water surrounded by hills. It had transformed into a living testament to the stories, myths, and bonds that defined its essence. Boats once again sailed its waters, not in pursuit of the elusive creature, but to pay homage to the legacy of the loch. Children laughed and played by its shores, their innocent eyes always on the lookout for a glimpse of the legendary beast. And as for Nessie, she continued her silent vigil, content in the knowledge that the tales of her existence would endure. She wasn't just a legend but a symbol of the unseen bond that connected all living things, a reminder of the magic that lay just beneath the surface.